Hello and welcome to another edition of Growth Habits, where we uncover the habits and mindsets of world-class achievers, getting an in-depth look at what gives them the competitive edge to perform at the top of their field. Today's special guests are renowned ice dancers Meryl Davis and Charlie White. Having joined forces in 1997, the duo is the longest-running ice dancing partnership in the history of the United States, and together they've won 3 Olympic ice dancing medals, including gold in 2014. And after their title run in Sochi, the two took their talents to Dancing with the Stars, where Meryl eventually won the competition and Charlie finished as a semifinalist. And this October, they'll join forces with famed professional dancer Cheryl Burke for the Love on the Floor live dance tour. And in addition to their competitive and performance careers, Meryl and Charlie support the Glassroom Champions program, which connects students in high-need schools with top-performing athletes to help them set goals for the future. Thank you both very much.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
for
us.
How did this partnership start?
Well, Charlie and I were both skating in a local Detroit rink when we were about 8 or 9 years old. And we were both very athletic little, tiny little skaters. I hadn't really done any ice dance before, and Charlie's coach at the time was looking for someone that had sort of like a similar stature to Charlie to start skating with. So I was a good match, and luckily 20 years later, I think the sentiment is still true.
So you go back that far?
Yeah, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. Our families were not skating aficionados. They didn't have dreams of us going to the Olympics, and we didn't really know what ice dancing was. And we were just kids having fun, and I think that was probably the best start for us.
And it was never romantic?
No, we started spending so much time together when we were children, and, I really feel as though, the two of us, but also our families became intertwined, and I think that's been very much, the feeling that we've had is a very family-like vibe between us, and I think that's a part of why we've been so successful for so many years.
It's not a race, so ice dancing is very subjective, right?
That's right.
It's the judges ruling on to how they think you did.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was always interesting. And for me, I was a hockey player. I was very athletic and competitive, and it took me a while to kind of buy into the storytelling and creative element of ice dancing.
Ballet, in a sense.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah. And for me, I just wanted to skate fast. I wanted to do lifts, and I wanted that to be all that I needed. But as I grew and matured, I began to appreciate the narrative that you could create, out on the ice with a lady, and with the music, and with the outfits. And so you have to craft, this entire program with the idea in mind that you have to convince the judges that you're the best.
Now, you're the longest-running ice dancing partnership in history. What do you think is the key characteristic or personality trait that helps you stay together?
I mean, I think if I had to pick one, it would just be respect. Starting at such a young age, certainly we ran into moments where, our moms would have to pull us aside and say, now you have to understand it, from his perspective or from her perspective when you're 8 or 9 years old skating with someone of the opposite sex. But, from quite early on, we've just had a tremendous amount of respect for each other. And that's really carried us through 20 years of not only success, but challenges as well.
Were there times where you might have broken up?
No.
Never?
No. And
what do you think kept you driving?
I would agree. I think the respect that our parents instilled in us for, obviously for each other, but for everyone. And in that way, we grew up on the same page because I think we were so fortunate to have parents who raised us the right way.
Now, you're not going to compete professionally anymore.
We're not.
Why?
I think for us, so much of our drive and why we sacrificed, waking up, going to the rink, destroying our bodies to prove ourselves was, in the end, to stand at the top of the podium at the Olympics. And having sort of sated that, we felt like there's so many other things that we want to accomplish and directions that we can see our lives going that will be put on hold if we choose to compete, on top of the fact that it wouldn't feel as true as our, the last Olympics that we had gone to.
So there comes to a point in many of our classes here, they're learning from this, of what's next, right?
Yeah, for sure. For us, we have been asked many, many times, was there ever a moment where you wanted to give up? Was there ever a time when you thought, I'm not sure I can do this anymore? And while there were a lot of challenges, I think from the time we began until we were standing on top of that Olympic podium in Sochi, there was never a true moment where either of us felt like giving up. And so I think, looking at it that way, we knew that there was that just intangible reason for us not to return to competition, because we never had a doubt that that's where we wanted to be. And now that we're in this position, we're so excited to branch out and try new things.
Every successful person we talk to have day-to-day preparations, rituals they do. What's yours?
I think for us, going into the rink, we get there early so that we can warm up and make sure that our bodies are ready for the day. And that was also sort of our time to be mindful of what our approach was going to be that day. And for us, it was always to make the most of every moment. Because, and we talked about it and we kind of grew into this, at the end of the competition, like you said, it is subjective. But if when we got off the ice, we could look at ourselves in the mirror and be able to say to ourselves that we had done everything we could to the best of our ability to prepare ourselves for that competition, then how can you be dissatisfied with that? And so to have that mindset with you every day, knowing that when you get to the end of the competition, you want to be able to say that, that was sort of our mantra, is just leave it all out on the ice every day.
When you stop competing and you're doing it for money and for attention and for the love of doing it, will you keep the same rituals?
We're much less regimented now that we're on the road, maybe 75% of the time. But I think it's interesting because you mentioned earlier Classroom Champions, which is a program that we work with. And so I think really our role there is to try to communicate how a lot of the lessons we've learned through elite sport really translate into anything else. So we certainly try to use those rituals, continuing to skate, continuing to perform, but also we try to implement those, as we finish college and sort of venture into different areas of our lives. And so we're trying to make sure that we're applying those things that we've learned so well as elite athletes.
Did you have mentors when you started?
Absolutely, yeah, and we were very fortunate. At our training facility, the greatest ice dancing coaches from Russia happened to be at our rink, and they had some of the best skaters, and they all went through the day doing the right things with the right attitude. And for us to be able to see the success correlated with the attitude of not being better than, anyone else, of not being afraid of putting the work in, even when especially when it's uncomfortable. And that was something that was really important to us. And then as we grew and, started having more success, we were able to meet our longtime idols of Scott Hamilton and Kristi Yamaguchi, the people who are just absolutely legends on and off the ice. And to see the way that they interacted with the world.
Yeah, I know them both. They're terrific.
They're terrific, and it was such an inspiration to see that, what a true champion represents.
And you think you keep those goals, don't you? Even if you're in a different venue.
I think that's what we pride ourselves most on. Being an Olympic champion is great. Standing on top of the Olympic podium is a moment we'll never forget. But at the end of the day, I think we both feel as though we're most proud about taking those ideals with us on and off the ice.
When we return to this edition of Growth Habits, we'll talk about the importance of developing a multifaceted career and pursuing a continuing education. Our guests are Olympic ice dancing champions Meryl Davis and Charlie White. Stay with us.
We started Growth.com and this interview series because we recognized that people want to become more. That's our tagline. When you go to our website, you see this person standing in front of this great big mountain, and you can see they're just poised and they're ready. They're ready to accept that challenge in their life. They're ready to listen to that restlessness or that frustration inside that says, you know what? I want to become better. I want to become a better mom or a better entrepreneur or a better leader. I want to manage my health better. I want to get things done more. That there's something inside that makes them want to become more. And that's what we've learned by studying the growth masters of the past. It's very clear that three things lead to an extraordinary quality of life, an ability to achieve you becoming more. Number one is that commitment to excellence. And so that's why I honor you watching this video series right now, is because you wouldn't be here if something inside didn't say, I want to become more. I want to be more excellent at what I do and contribute to the world. Number two, to achieve more, to become great, you have to get mentors. And that's what we're bringing to you every single month with these interview series, but also through our Growth Masters monthly program, where we bring the great voices from the past, the personal and professional development leaders who really set the foundation for all of us, you know, a Zig Ziglar or a Napoleon Hill or Dale Carnegie or Earl Nightingale or Brian Tracy, bringing their voices to you too, because we all need mentors to go to the next level. And the third thing we've learned from Growth Masters, and for all those who've ever been on that journey to becoming more, is that you need better habits. You need better daily routines and rituals to put you back on track to becoming more disciplined, more focused, more effective at achieving your dreams and becoming an extraordinary person. This is what we do here at the Growth Monthly Masters Program, and this is what we do at growth.com. It's your time to become more.
Welcome back to Growth Habits with Meryl Davis and Charlie White, Olympic champions. Okay, you're returning to skating this fall in Love on the Floor. How did this start? What's it all about?
Yeah, so we actually won't be skating. It's kind of a new track for us. We obviously got to know Cheryl Burke doing Dancing with the Stars, and she came to us last year and had an idea for doing a show in Japan.
Not skating.
Not skating, and which was very intimidating for us, because while we had some success, and obviously Meryl won Dancing with the Stars, you know, there's a lot of hand-holding that goes on. And in this format, it was going to be much more us out on the dance floor alone. And so kind of taking on this new challenge and new project, sort of.
What's the show like?
It is the story of several different sort of stages of a relationship, hopefully not every relationship, but you know, it goes through the stages of romance is one section, passion is another section, hurt, and then empowerment. So it's sort of a journey that you can take personally as you know, interact with another person.
How many people in the show?
I want to say close to 15.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a smaller cast in the U.S. So I think we're going to have 8 or maybe 9 people in the U.S.
Yeah, that's right.
But just sort of embodying these feelings that a lot of people go through. And, you know, for us, that's one of the really beautiful things about getting to dance, as opposed to being on the ice, which of course we love, is getting to dive into storytelling, which is one of our favorite things about figure skating. So we're doing what we love, but in a little bit of a different way.
Will you be doing it with other partners too?
Yeah, and we have a number together, which is always comfortable, obviously. We're so familiar with moving with one another. But yeah, what's crazy is the way that we bounce in and out of group numbers with other partners, and it's really, we're being pushed to our limit, but in a very exciting way.
Are you dancers who skate or skaters who dance?
Definitely skaters who dance.
Yes.
I don't think that that's necessarily true for all skaters, but for us, you know, the skating aspect has really always been our greatest strength.
So you're not going to be doing that?
We're not going to be doing that, but luckily we have a lot of assistants. We're working with some of the best, not only dancers, but choreographers and instructors, and so we feel very privileged to have that opportunity to learn and grow.
How about adjusting with new collaborators?
I think as we sort of created our programs, as we matured in competition through figure skating, we ended up branching out and using different choreographers. And so in that sense, we kind of became comfortable with the idea. But the thing with dancers is that they always go 100% full out every time. And for us, just remembering the steps on the floor as opposed to skating is difficult. So I think what I'm most appreciative with everyone that we've worked with is just their patience, because their brilliance is just, so far, has been unmatched. I mean, I think for us, just, we feel so grateful to be able to work with people who care so much about their work and who kind of give that gift to us as well.
So you're in again with subjective. You were subjective on Dancing with the Stars, right?
That's right.
Based on the opinions of others.
Yes. yes.
And now your subjectivity will be the audience.
That's right.
Right? The applause, the critics. Are you ready for that?
I think so. I mean, I think as not only elite athletes, but as athletes in a performance-based sport, we've become very familiar and very comfortable in sort of seeking our own level of satisfaction. And I think you have to find that in a sport like figure skating. Not everyone is going to love what it is you're doing. Some people, really won't like what it is you're doing, and that's okay. But I think in a setting like this with Love on the Floor, where, we're really just trying to get the audience to have a great time, the beauty is that the audience will know that we're not professional dancers. We're coming to it from a very different place, and so we hope that they enjoy sort of our experience being in a different medium as well.
What kind of houses will you perform in?
I think as of now it's 3,000 seat or smaller. And this is the first time this tour is traveling across the US. So it's really gonna be about getting a footing and sort of proving the product. And even though it's different from figure skating, that is something that we're very familiar with.
You think it's important to have a multi-dimensional career?
Absolutely. I think it's very interesting. After we won in Sochi, Charlie and I had a lot of conversations with a lot of different athletes, and whether or not they decide to return to competition, I think something a lot of athletes face is finding purpose. Oftentimes you're peaking when you're 25 years old, and you have the rest of your life ahead of you. And so for us, we're very goal-oriented, we're very hardworking people, and I think not returning to competition, we're excited to learn and grow in different areas and challenge ourselves and feel accomplished, from day to day, which I think is a very important thing for everyone.
An example of that is you're part of the Classroom Champions program. How does that work?
Yeah, so what we do is Meryl and I will sit down and record a 5 to 6 minute video about a subject. It could be perseverance, team building, community, and so each month it's different. We send this video out to these classrooms, which are in high need areas, and it's our
high need, like low income,
low
poverty.
income, yeah, and our responsibility as Olympians, and especially as Olympic champions, is to be able to be role models, and especially for kids that might be in areas that are devoid of as many role models as you can get.
Are there a lot of athletes and people involved in this?
There are. I'm not sure how many athletes exactly, but I think we're in 3 to 4 countries now. So Charlie and I have classrooms specifically in the US, but there are classrooms in Canada, some countries in the Caribbean, I think. But the teachers sort of take these ideas that we start with and build lesson plans around them. And the classrooms will share sort of their progress and the projects that they're building around the videos that we're sending them. So it's interesting because when we're forced to sort of reflect on our perspective, I think this program, having been a part of it since 2010, has been a really big part of our understanding of what it takes to be successful, whether you're a figure skater or beyond.
You're both enrolled at the University of Michigan, right?
That's
Studying?
Right. Yes, political science.
Anthropology.
So you guys keep on keeping on, right? So you don't stop education.
No, and when we were competing, education, although playing a small role, was still an important part of our lives. And we've never lost the dream of wanting to graduate. And I think we're very grateful for having school along with the ride of competitive figure skating. And, just having a balance in your life is important to us. And we recognize the importance of that.
And a degree will be important, right?
Absolutely, yes. We've been undergraduate students at the University of Michigan now for over a decade.
We're breaking records.
And I think we take a lot of pride in our ability to, even if it is only 1 or 2 classes at a time, as we were competing and training for the Olympics, to maintain that effort.
When do you get your degrees?
Someday. As soon as possible. And we're so lucky to be able to travel and do all these things.
The key, of course, is staying in the game.
That's right. That's right. Never being discouraged.
The keys to staying motivated and inspired, how Meryl Davis and Charlie White reached their ultimate goal of Olympic gold. That's next on Growth Habits.
So no doubt when you watch interviews like this, you get inspired. You know, you see some level of greatness and you start asking yourself, am I giving my best right now? You know, am I giving my best to my family? Am I giving my best to my business? Am I showing up and showing the world who I really am? Am I exerting my personal power and strength in the world? That's the power of watching interviews like this. And I just say, let's take it to another level. You know, if you haven't heard about the Growth Masters Monthly Program, this is what it is times 10. And let me tell you what I mean, is we've gathered the greatest personal and professional development courses in history, and we put them into a members program for you to access right now. When you sign up for the Growth Masters program, as an example, you get 50, that's 50 courses right now from some of the greatest personal and professional development teachers in history. This is Zig Ziglar teaching you how to rise to the top. It's Brian Tracy teaching you how to be a better entrepreneur. It's people teaching you how to master your mind, master your health, master your finances, master team, master leadership. It's the mentors and the voices who have shaped my life and so many other great leaders in our industry. It's your opportunity to get 50 courses unlocked right now for just $49 a month. And these are courses that most people paid $300, $400, $500 for. We also give you every single thing we can from our vault at growth.com to help you succeed. From getting you on a phone with a certified high performance coach so you can identify where you're at and where you need to go. You know, sometimes you just have to talk it through with a small group of people. So we put you on a small group coaching call with a certified high performance coach so you can figure out, like, what should you focus on right now? We give you 2 tickets to our Growth Summit. That's our live seminar where we bring some of the great leaders of today in to inspire you and instruct you on how to go to that next level. We do things like making sure that when you're in our members area, you can participate with a community of people who are positive and amazing and want to help you go to another level. And every single month we release new training. 5 new courses released to you every single month in personal and professional development. Again, to help you with your health or your finances, your leadership, your mind, your body, really looking at your entire life and making you better, pulling in some of the great voices in personal and professional development. But also, it's me with you live every single month where I teach you the latest in motivation, high performance, and psychology, and teach you what I've learned. What did I learn from Napoleon Hill or Earl Nightingale or Dale Carnegie or Tony Robbins or Stephen Covey? What I learned from them, I share with you every single month. And there's Larry, every single month interviewing another great to help you be more inspired just like you have been in this interview. It's all part of the Growth Masters Monthly Program. You can see a link on this page where you can get signed up today for just $49 a month. And remember, these are programs that people paid hundreds of dollars for each. You get 50 unlocked for you right now. Look, lots of people spend lots of money on Netflix or gyms each month, and that's cool. They're paying, you know, to entertain themselves or to get their body fit. But it's time to get your mind fit, to get your mind, your body, your whole life back in alignment so that you can become more, so you can serve better, lead better, achieve more. That's what the Growth Masters program is all about.
All right, gang, take us back to the moment you won the gold in Sochi.
So we had won every competition for 2 years leading up to the Olympics and had the full expectation that if we could skate our very best, we would walk away with the gold medal. And we did exactly.
You say you were favored?
We were, yeah, I would say that, you know, trending results and the success that we had had, historically speaking, we were the favored team.
Is that more pressure?
It's absolutely more pressure. And we had won the silver medal in 2010. So it felt like to us, there's just the one step up, you know? And in figure skating, like in so many Olympic sports, there's so many things that can go wrong. And so there was a ton of pressure, and we put it on ourselves. We had the high expectations. And so to have completed the program as well as we possibly could have was in its own way a victory to overcome that nervousness.
How important along the way was patience?
Incredibly important. There were a lot of moments where, you know, in competition, things may not have necessarily gone right, not at the Olympics, but, you know, in the years leading up. And I think in those moments, it's easy to, for a short period of time, feel like it's, it's the end of the world, or we've messed something up, or something's gone terribly wrong. But in reality, standing on top of the Olympic podium, Charlie and I knew that it was those moments of imperfection or having made mistakes and then learning from them that really made us as strong as we were going into the Olympics. And so that patience of dealing with sort of the hurdles and moving past them is, I think that was really one of our greatest assets as, going in as Olympic favorites.
Ever have the urge to quit?
I mean, maybe as a kid, occasionally, it was we had to make a lot of sacrifices. We couldn't hang out with friends on the weekends, and when we were in college, living at the University of Michigan, we weren't partying, we weren't doing, a lot of the things that the normal student is doing. But I think we had such a passion and an appreciation for the sport and for the opportunity that we had that realistically, I think there was no way I was going to stop.
So it wasn't financial. You grow up in a capitalistic society. Mm-hmm. What are you driving for?
Pride. I think that we learned from an early age how good it felt to make progress and to grow and to just become better at something. Not only from competition to competition, but from day to day, to try a trick, not be able to do it, work for a month, 2 months on it, and then nail it is an amazing feeling. And so just making progress and taking pride in that progress, I think, is something that's really driven both of us for many years.
Yeah, and we're very competitive, too. I mean, beating other people and beating ourselves oftentimes was a huge driving factor, especially as kids. Mm-hmm. I think when you're 9, 10, standing on top of the podium and being like, all of my hard work paid off, it's a really nice feeling, and mm-hmm. sometimes that gets you through the tough times.
What was the toughest obstacle along the way?
I don't think it was necessarily the same for both of us, but for me, it was definitely self-confidence. I think it's something that I had struggled with since I was very young, and I think that was one of the really beautiful things for me, in particular, about our partnership, is Charlie was always very confident, very optimistic, very positive, and having that influence is something that I feel like I've really grown into over the years. But self-confidence, whether it was with my skating skill, the way whatever it might have been, that was definitely my greatest obstacle.
How did you deal with bad days? You fall.
Yeah,
Nothing's perfect.
I think that we had, through our parents' guidance and our excellent coaching and being able to lean on one another, we were able to pretty quickly recognize that making mistakes was a necessary part of the experience of growing to overcome eventual obstacles. And like you said, patience, and like Meryl said, patience is incredibly important. And to be patient through bad days, and to recognize that all experiences help lead you to understanding yourself better, which is ultimately going to help you have the most success.
Are there things you use to motivate you? Are there books, music, videos?
I think, of course, there was always a lot of artistic inspiration, but in particular, as we got older, I think it was very much the physical side and just the fun of it when we were young. But I think fun took on a very different meaning as we aged and gained an appreciation for the beautiful music we were able to skate to and storytelling. I think that's really become my favorite part of ice dancing, is being able to, sort of step outside of your own limited experience.
There's
and
a beginning, a middle, and the end, right?
Right, yeah.
Oh, best piece of advice you ever got?
Best piece of advice I ever got? I think probably to be myself. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it might be in top 5 cliche things.
Oh,
and
a lot of people don't know it.
But I think the way I interpret it and the way that I would phrase it is to become the best version of yourself. Because some people hear be yourself and they think, well, I'm static and I'm the way I should be. But there's so much growth and so much potential to fill in every person. And to recognize that is part of becoming the best version of yourself.
What's the worst piece of advice you ever got?
The worst piece of advice I ever got.
Quit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so Charlie and I became ice dancers at a time, in the history of ice dancing when the typical ice dancer was tall, very thin, you know, long legs. The Russians were dominating ice dancing at the time, and when we were probably about 9 or 10, we got a lot of people telling us, you're not suited for this, you should just quit now because you'll never make it. Physically, you don't have the right body type for this. Just,
we were exceptionally small.
We were exceptionally small, but
we're not very big people.
But I humbly, I would like to think that we were a small part of sort of changing, you know, the norm in ice dance, and we played a small role in making ice dance a little bit more athletically focused because we were more athletically focused.
What advice would you give to young people starting out in any career?
Sure, I think to accept that being uncomfortable is a part of the process, and to find, well, this is the two-part, and to find a way to make it fun, to have fun being uncomfortable, because from figure skating and anything, nothing looks good or is going to become better when you're comfortable. And it's something that I think evolutionarily we rail against. We want to be comfortable. We desperately push back against being uncomfortable, but it is constantly getting in the way of bettering ourselves.
Is there anything you would have done differently as you look back?
I don't think so. You know, there were moments where I think at the time I wish things had gone differently, but, you know, sitting here now, I think a lot of our success came from the moments that were very imperfect. So, no, I would say probably I would do things exactly
I mean,
the
I would
same.
have done everything perfectly, but if
Do you network, you guys?
Do we network? That's something that I've definitely had to learn. You know, now that we are not competing and our careers are, you know, going in a different direction, I think that it's a very important thing, and it's something, I think I'm naturally an introvert, so networking is something that I've had to work on.
Look back, anything you'd have done differently?
No, I don't think so. I was joking. I think...
Well, you don't say when we won the silver, we should have won the gold?
No, and I don't think that we should have. And
you're not shoulda, woulda, coulda.
No, and as much as, and Meryl touched on it briefly, as much as I am so grateful to have won an Olympic gold medal, I see it also as a part of the process of becoming the best version of myself. And the hardest losses and the falls in competition, and trust me, some were very embarrassing. Those were all part of the process, and I wouldn't have the same sort of grounded perspective without them.
Young athletes I know, young kids, they dream of being Derek Jeter or football or on the field. Did you dream of the things you accomplished? When you were 9, did you ever say, I'm an Olympic champion?
I think so, yes. So Charlie and I were lucky enough to be at a skating club in Detroit where, you know, we skated with Olympic greats like Tara Lipinski and Todd Eldridge and people who were actually going to the Olympics. And so I think from an early age we understood that, you know, we saw these people who were working daily and taking that to the games. And so that was never our day-to-day focus, was like, okay, well, we're going to make the Olympics someday. But I think it was always on our minds, and it was always a place that we wanted to be.
What's the difference between good and great?
I think the difference between good and great oftentimes comes down to things beyond someone's control. And because we competed against many, many people who sacrificed, who had talent, but you know, maybe they didn't have the right partner, maybe they didn't have the right opportunity. And so as you grow, I think being able to recognize the things you've surrounded yourself with that are holding you back, and it can be you, it can be your attitude, and fixing those, that will lead you from being good to being great.
What habit would you say has gotten you the furthest in your career?
I mean, I think that there are so many things in figure skating that are applicable to life in general, but I think as an athlete, practice has to be the habit, and enjoying practice has to be the habit. You know, Charlie and I were never afraid to put the work in, and you know, we were never the most naturally talented ice dancers or figure skaters, but we put the work in and we made it work for us. So I would have to say practice.
In your field, is there such a thing as luck? They said luck comes at 3 o'clock in the morning. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was
Thank you
delightful.
for having us. Thank you.
That does it for this edition of Growth Habits. Thanks to our guest, Olympic champion ice dancers Meryl Davis and Charlie White. Look for them this coming fall when they're on tour in that wonderful idea, Love on the Floor. Remember, success can make a difference in your lives too. And don't forget, be sure to get tickets to Love on the Dance Floor Dance Tour. It starts October 17th. I'm Larry King, and I'll see you next time.